Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Eric from Tech. Diablo Immortal has been one of the more controversial games recently released, mostly because of its pay-to-win aspect. But even if you don't plan to spend any money on the game, you will not be facing any brick walls in terms of finishing the game. In this video, let's find out what kind of hardware is required to run the game at its highest settings, and does running the game at max graphics have an impact on the overall gameplay? So I'm going to be running the test on 5 phones here, namely the RedMagic 7 Pro, the Realme GT Neo 2 Dragon Ball Z Edition, the Redmi K40 Bruce Lee Gaming Edition, the ROG Phone 5, and a pretty old flagship, the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. So I wanted to do the test with different chipsets. So I've got 3 phones with Snapdragon chips, a MediaTek chip, and an Exynos chip. So what are we waiting for, guys? Let's go ahead and get this test started. Now in terms of the RAM and the storage here, guys, the RedMagic 7 Pro is the most powerful here. It has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip, it has 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, and it has a 144Hz refresh rate. The Realme GT Neo 2 has the Snapdragon 870, it also has 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage, but the refresh rate only tops out at 120Hz. Same case for the Redmi K40 Gaming Edition. It maxes out at 120Hz, but it has the MediaTek Dimensity 1200 chip. It also has 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. ROG Phone 5 is much the same. It's running last year's Qualcomm Snapdragon flagship, which is the Snapdragon 888. And it also has 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. And the only phone that has lower RAM and lower storage is the Note 9 here, which is running a pretty old Exynos 9810. It has 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. Now, I put this Samsung Galaxy Note 9 here because I wanted to know how well optimized this game is. So I'm not going to be changing anything in terms of the refresh rates. I'm keeping them all at its maximum because in my case, I tend to run my phones at their maximum refresh rates because that's one of the main reasons that people buy the phones. Most people don't buy 120Hz refresh rate phones and keep it at 60. It actually defeats the purpose of getting such a high refresh rate phone. So this is a pretty straightforward test. I'm going to be running Retest PerfDog, which is the monitoring software that I'm going to use in order to check the frames per second, the amount of power used, and if the chipset supports it, it will give us back the temperature of the CPU itself during the test. So first off, I'm going to run the test first with the RedMagic 7 Pro, followed by the ROG Phone 5, then the Realme GT Neo 2, followed by the Redmi K40 Gaming Bruce Lee Edition, and then finally the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. Here's some temps, guys. 40, around 40.3 degrees here at the back of the phone, guys. The top is the hottest, 41.4. So frame rate is 60, resolution is set to high. I've turned on image sharpening. And in terms of the graphics settings, I went for the very highest where everything is at its highest or at its maximum settings. Frame rate is 60, resolution high, image sharpening is on, and for the graphics settings, it's all at very high. Alright guys, measuring some temps. 41.2, 45 in the middle. So on the ROG Phone 5, it gets hottest in the middle, 46.9. Alright guys, so let's measure some temps. 45.9. So in the case of the Realme GT Neo 2, temperatures are hottest at the top of the phone. So let's check out the back. Alright guys, time to measure some temps. 45.7 at the top. So again, hottest at the top, 45.7. And at the back, 47.4. So on the older Samsung flagship, the frame rate is actually limited to just 30. It doesn't support the high FPS or 60 on this device, and for the resolution, you can only keep it at medium. High is not available, as well as ultra. I'm keeping image sharpening off because that has a big impact on the performance of the phone, so I'm leaving it off. And in terms of the quality of the graphics, I've set it to medium. I did try it at high and at very high, and it wasn't very playable and not very enjoyable, guys. So in my opinion, for this phone, the best graphic settings that you can use is medium. But just to show you guys, I'm setting it at high, and let's see how it goes. So off the bat, it isn't as smooth because of course it's just running at 30 FPS against the 60 that we were running on the gaming phones, but it's still perfectly playable, guys. Alright guys, so time to measure some temps. Actually, the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 didn't get as hot as the other gaming phones. 39.4, 40 in the middle, 39.4. So it seems that the middle part of the Note 9 got the hottest. Alright guys, so test is done. Here are some graphs of the test. What's pretty surprising here guys is that the Realme GT Neo 2 with the Snapdragon 870, which is supposed to be a lot less powerful than the Snapdragon 888 on the ROG Phone 5, it actually performed really well. And in terms of the frames per second, the Realme GT Neo 2 has a higher average frames per second. So in order of the winner in terms of the FPS is going to be the RedMagic 7 Pro. Of course, you're going to be paying a premium for that, and you've got the fan, so it's keeping temperatures well in control, followed by the Realme GT Neo 2, which as I said is a surprise for me. Then the ROG Phone 5, followed by the Redmi K40 Gaming Edition, which had a lot of stuttering during the gameplay, so it wasn't very enjoyable at all. But take note guys, for the four gaming phones, I kept it all at the highest settings that Diablo Immortal has to offer. Now, in case of the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, it doesn't support 60 FPS on the game itself, so I kept it at 30, though I did see that it did perform pretty well for an older flagship. The average frames per second was an impressive 29.2. So the RedMagic 7 Pro averaged 59.7 frames per second, the ROG Phone 5 hit 57.7. The GT Neo 2 is a very impressive 59.5, so just 0.2 off of the RedMagic 7 Pro. The K40 Gaming Edition struggled a bit, is 55.2, and the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 is at 29.2, though it's only supposed to be running at 30 frames per second, so it's still pretty darn close. And what's even more impressive here guys is in terms of the power usage, the GT Neo 2 actually used half of the power that the ROG Phone 5 and the RedMagic 7 Pro used in getting that very high 59.5 frames per second. So it's telling me that this Snapdragon 870 is a lot more power efficient when compared to its big brothers, the Snapdragon 888 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. The MediaTek Dimensity 1200 chip also used a lot of power, almost comparable with the ROG Phone 5, but it performed a lot worse. It is struggling to run the game at very high settings. The Note 9 is somewhere in between the Realme GT Neo 2 and the ROG Phone 5, so it did struggle a bit in trying to run a very demanding game, though temperatures were well in control. So in terms of the temperature guys, so the hottest phone is a bit close between the ROG Phone 5 and the Redmi K40 Gaming Edition. The K40 Gaming Edition had the hotter back temperature at 47.4, ROG Phone 5 at just 46.9, and the hottest phone overall is the Redmi K40 Gaming Edition with the front of the screen hitting around 45.7 and the ROG Phone 5 45.3. So it's only a bit of a difference. So if you're going to play long term, especially in demanding games, you're going to be better off with using an external external cooler like the Black Shark Fun Cooler Pro 2 or the RedMagic Turbo Cooler. The GT Neo 2 didn't do too bad. It had a back temperature of 44.7 and the front actually got a bit hotter at 46. The RedMagic 7 Pro had a back temperature of 40.8 and a front temperature of 41.6. So very well controlled because of that internal fan. In the case of the Galaxy Note 9, pretty impressed as well with the temperature control, but that actually has a lot more to do with Samsung actively controlling the performance of the Exynos chip in order to keep the temperature down. So this is something that Samsung has programmed its phones to do. Whereas on the gaming phones, they are actually built to run as fast as possible and limiting the performance only when the temperatures get a little bit too high. So the Samsung Galaxy Note 9's temperature is 40 at the front and 40 at the back, so it doesn't get too hot, but in exchange your performance is going to suffer. So in conclusion guys, if you've got a gaming phone from last year or even some gaming phones this year, you're not going to have any problem at all with running Diablo Immortal at its highest graphics settings. Even the Realme GT Neo 2, even though it's not a flagship gaming phone, but it's still a gaming phone nonetheless, a mid-range one, it still managed to run and it even beat the performance of the ROG Phone 5. In the case of the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, the game is still very much playable, but of course you're going to be missing out on high FPS when compared to running it on dedicated gaming phones. So let me know what other phones or chipsets that you guys want me to test this on, and I would love to discuss it on the comment section down below. And if you guys are interested in testing out your phones as well in games such as Diablo Immortal and any other demanding game, please visit the video description for the link of the WeTest PerfDog software that you can use in order to run those tests. But as usual, a sub would be massively appreciated. Please like and subscribe, hit that bell icon notification, and see you all on my next one.